anyways, that's that time. We have a lot to talk about. You got everybody here because we got to get into it. There's a lot that's happened. There's a lot of big breaking news beyond this that we're going to discuss, and I can't really talk about it. So now it's time to get into it. All right, everybody, the very first thing I want to talk about right now in our discussion piece section of the show is Paramount, because Paramount is at a point right now that they're apparently selling it off. We talked about Paramount for a long time because Paramount, they started Paramount Plus, and they didn't say they were going to make an actual profit on Paramount Plus until 2027. That's a long time they've been hemorrhaging money. Now, Paramount's not been doing well since the pandemic. I worked at Paramount for years, worked on a show, we worked on a bunch of kids shows, worked on Thundermans for Nickelodeon, worked on Marvin, worked on Night Squad, and at that point, we've been talking to people on a lot, and they're like, yes, I'm doing well, they were finding people. Now they're talking about laying off at least 1,000 people, at least 1,000 because they're not doing well. And on top of that, Sherry Redstone, who is like the granddaughter of the be-all, end-all like starter of Paramount back in the 30s, she finally got the reins to the industry. And she said, well, I fought my dad for like 4 years, and now I may have to sell it all off. So she actually started with her, it's called National Investments or Amusements, who's the company that is their parent company with Paramount Global that's working with her. And they were looking at the books going back and forth, and they were saying that they might have to actually litigate some of the actual, the networks, or maybe the whole thing, Paramount Plus, sell it off to Warner Brothers, sell it off to somebody in order to make some money, or you sell the whole thing away and somebody else gets control of Paramount because they have lost so much money. And for her career and her path, she's been fighting for this for so long, then she gets it, and they're at the point where they've lost so much money that she's like, I don't have to do it anymore. I can't afford this. They might have to lay up, like I said, thousands of people. That's insane. Redstone actually hired a banker, Byron Trott, to actually figure out the value and potential deals they can do. And they're actually taking quotes right now to see who would want to buy Paramount. Or, if people want to buy a portion of Paramount, you could buy CBS News, you could buy CBS affiliates, you could buy Paramount Plus, you could buy Paramount's like other streaming Paramount network. You could buy one of those, or maybe just buy the lot. So there's a lot of interesting facts they could go into. They could sell off, or they could sell the whole thing as one big deal, take it, and then walk away from the whole thing and just do one of those. And it's really crazy for a family-owned industry like that, just sell it off like that. And it's a big change for the industry. The last Mission Impossible didn't do so well, Queen. It didn't. But Top Gun did fucking fantastic. One of their biggest blockbusters ever. And they thought that would, ride them into the future. But unfortunately, Tom Cruise cannot save Paramount. Even though they fired him, brought him back, he can't save it. So it sucks. But you hear this. It's big industry-changing news, Lexi. And you hear this. Do you think that they're going to actually sell it off? Or do you think they will just take some side deals, sell off this asset, this, and then just keep the boat floating for now?
What do you mean? Disney's got their fucking wallet out right now. They're like, oh shit, how do we get in on that? Because like
they did, Bob, I just talking about buying stuff.
Right? Well, they fucking love owning everything, right? And if they can get more IPs to ruin, then by all means they'll buy that up. Either them or Amazon, right? Amazon's like, no, I need in on that shit. No, there's like two people who want to own everything at this point. Someone's gonna try to get that shit. Yeah, of course. Like, we're in a place right now where it's late stage capitalism. So everybody's just buying up the companies until there's going to be like two people fighting with each other for, who's the 50% of this and 50% of this. And those 50% are just going to be fighting. And that's what's going to end up being. Cause like nobody's really left anymore, right? Like nobody's really their own individual pieces. And it's surprising that Paramount is at this point, because I actually thought Paramount was doing well. I thought they were one of the few companies that were having success, like you said, with their streaming service.
I thought so too.
And
this game is a surprise to me.
They said that someone commented with the ownership of Star Trek. That's a huge IP. I mean, they've been putting out Star Trek content like crazy. You would think
massive penis.
I mean, exactly. And I mean, they've been putting out, I know Lower Decks does really well. I know that Picard was doing really well. So they weren't putting out lackluster Star Trek properties. They were putting out an excessive amount, but so was Disney with Star Wars and Marvel. So everybody right now is just, when they own a high level IP, they're just dumping right now, right? Like they're like, how much property can I put out? TV shows, movies, what can I get? What can I cash in on? So it's an example of like, I have a large piece, I can get as much out of it, but it's really, you think they're doing well. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that Warner Brothers is going to be next.
We've already talked about it on the show too. Like, see, the Universal wants to buy Warner Brothers, and Paramount. People are saying in the chat too about like Good Burger 2, but I heard like Rise of the Beast. I've heard they've had a lot of projects that have failed. They just fucking fail. Right. And it's like, how as a studio, how do you keep going? Everything keeps failing, and they've been doing that for years. Universal
already has so much of a relationship with Warner Brothers too, like where they have so much of their content in their parks, and so much content is like heavily embroiled with them that it wouldn't be very hard for Universal to be like, hey, come on over. Like, we already have
we'll take that
relationship with you, like merge with us. But that goes back to that whole statement of like, at some point there's going to be 3 movie companies. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to keep merging.
That's the route we're going.
And that's already where we're heading. Like right now, I mean, it's not going to be long before, like, we always talk about how great A24 is. A24 is bought by somebody before long. Like, they're too small to keep existing the way they are.
We're really getting to that point, like, already. I mean, like, you hear about them too much now already.
Well, I don't know if anybody remembers Blumhouse back in the day. Blumhouse used to be a really fucking great company when they first started. They were like, whoa, and same with Lionsgate. Lionsgate way back in the early 2000s, they were the A24 back in the day. Like, Lionsgate were fucking killing it. I remember I would watch anything from Lionsgate back then. I wouldn't watch anything from Lionsgate now. Like, they're fucking shit now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everything they put out is like so low tier, and it's like, I don't know what happened to this company. And the same with Blumhouse. Blumhouse, you know what? Not to go off on Blumhouse, but you know what Blumhouse's biggest problem is? If Blumhouse was smart, they would take their company and they would understand that they have a lot of potential to create content for teenagers. And they're not creating content for teenagers. They're taking IPs that are for like older audiences, and like, yeah, but their IPs are for older audiences, so that people that they're marketing towards are older people. I mean, they're very good with the Five Nights at Freddy's. That was like a smart move for them to do. That's the first time I'm like, good job. But like Black Friday, I saw the Black Friday remake. We covered that on our old podcast. That movie wasn't Black Friday. They could have taken that and marketed that at Gen Z and made a Gen Z horror movie, but instead they put Black Friday on it. They immediately sold it to the boomer, older demographic who was already familiar with that IP. Those are the people who went and saw it, not kids.
It happens a lot.
Same with like Child's Play. Child's Play is another one. They sold it to an older audience, but that movie was clearly made for Gen Z kids, the remake. It was not a bad film, but by calling it Child's Play, it was a bad film, right? So I don't understand these choices to like do so much of what you're seeing, and why people are not looking at marketing content at younger audiences, why they're not thinking about the future. Instead, they're just going, how can I buy this? How can I buy that? How can I...
It's a game of risk. There's buying stuff up for Monopoly, you're buying properties, but there's also like, we've seen things in the comments too about like Star Trek. Star Trek is a big IP. They talk about bringing in Quentin Tarantino at one point to actually do an IP with that. They're talking about the new Star Trek, maybe doing some with that. But the problem is though, you're hemorrhaging so much money. And even A24, Lexi, they actually worked a deal with Warner Brothers that are like last week, where they're going to take all their content to HBO Max. And so they have that deal in place. So all those productions are working with WB already. I feel like WB with Zaslav, if they can't afford to buy more stuff, they will eventually go to Universal, and Universal has Transformers the right already, so like, why not just take it that way? You know,
can I ask real quick too, like, is Star Trek a big IP? Because I can tell you that Star Trek was big for my parents. It was big for my,
guaranteed there's more money involved in now than ever.
Like,
there's more movies. There's more
money isn't the point. My point is does Gen Z give a fuck about Star Trek? I know my generation doesn't give a fuck about Star Trek. Like, there's the odd kid that I knew growing up in high school who was like, okay, the Star Trek kid got beaten up in high school. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not being mean with that, but like, genuinely, like, there were not too many kids in high school who were like really into Star Trek, and the Star Trek kids were not cool. Like, they were more beaten up by the D&D kids than they were the fucking, like, they were like entirely like, because like being into Star Trek was very like, Star Trek is very science oriented. It's very like
science fiction,
technology, right? But it's different. Like, it's very technical,
people together making A world where everyone can be, doesn't matter where you're from, any walk of life.
Like
that's
it
a good
so much,
point, Brian. It's a happy view of the future. Like
it is a happy view of the future,
way,
but it also uses like it uses real science. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, look at Star Wars. Star Wars is fantasy.
A lot of quantum flux going on.
There's fantasy wrapped around science bullshittery, right? It's like, oh, there's a robot, right? But you don't care how the robot works. It's all fantasy bullshit. Whereas like in Star Trek, they would tell you how the robot works right down to every single thing, and then some guy would be like, I bet I could build that in my garage. Because that's the kind of people that watch Star Trek. The people who go, I can build that in my garage. I could build a flux capacitor. I could build whatever. Like, they're they're smart people. Like, they're smart people who get into it because of like that kind of like thought process. And so I don't see it necessarily applicable to a modern age demographic who don't seem to like think that way or care about the stuff. I think there's like some politics in Star Trek that are definitely very important.
This is a deep question. This is a deep question, Lexi. I think that we could go on about this one. Like, I've got so many opinions that I would love to share, but I know that Brian has a lot of topics to get to.
Right.
There's some huge politics here, though. You both agree. I understand there's some huge politics. But
I'm saying it from a money-making standpoint. I'm like, why are they investing so much money into this IP when the generation that it's for is like dying off?
I think because the redos with J.J. Abrams did so well. And then they try to do these new TV shows, and Star Trek, Strange Worlds has done pretty well. Picard did really fucking well, and so I think they're looking at what's going to work next. They're trying to do more Picard movies, but the problem is Paramount's been losing money for years. Like I said, Paramount Plus, great idea. Everybody's going to streaming. Been hemorrhaging money every month for them. Yeah. Ron, you've worked on set for years, and you see that, like Paramount already losing money. They do a streaming service on top of that, losing more money, and now the person won that Sherry Redstone wanted it for years. Now she finally gets it, and then she's got to sell it off. Do you think that is a big problem for I should say like a studio that's been huge since the 30s? Do you think they can survive, Ron, or do you think that this is going to be done? We're going to forget about Paramount altogether?
I think they're too top heavy. They've got like somewhat 24 other companies, and I think they're just very top heavy, and they need to start cutting some fat. And then they can build themselves back up. But it's cyclical, and it happens. You're up, you're down. And it was funny though what Lexi said. In my time, back in the 1900s, 1980s,
yesterday,
the Star Trek kids were dorks. They were fucking nobody understood them. They hung out by themselves. It was still going on then, which is so funny that you say it's transferred to the generations.
Yeah. But Ron, do you think though, because you worked for Paramount before, right? You have, right?
Yeah, I did all
Star
the other
Trek generations.
I did Thunder. No, I didn't do Thunderbirds. I did Hathaways, and then I did School Rock. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? I mean, because when we worked there, did you ever hear any rumblings about the network maybe having problems at that point?
No, but this was also my last show there was in 2018. So okay. It was a bit before all of that. I heard all the rumblings of the ghost on stage 17, but nothing else.
I mean, I feel like we've all heard about those ghosts on the lot too. But like Ron, as a company like this, and you're waiting for so long to get control of it as a person, like you're waiting so long. Can you imagine just selling it off? How would that feel? That must be nuts, right?
I think it would be gut wrenching. I do, and especially since she's a legacy, it's like that would be absolutely gut wrenching. And I can imagine to get to that decision, there has been so much thought and so much put into that, because I think that would be the last thing she would want to do. And if she's actually saying she has to, then it's maybe more serious than we even know.
I think it could be fighting your dad for years too, like fighting her dad for like 4 years over this network too. That's insane to me. Just make successful movies. Yes, Paramount makes some movies, but they have no idea. They greenlight shit all the time. They have no idea. Like Transformers seems like it's going to make billions of dollars, you think, because of course there's a lot of people that love that IP. They think it's a set IP. It's to make lots of money. Tom Cruise did well. Mission Impossible's done well. Mike, do you think an IP can actually save a studio, or do you think that the IP-ness is not strong enough sometimes to actually create monetized money for a fucking network? It's not really a word, monetized money.
Brian, the IP-ness can be strong enough if only you believe. And that's the most important thing. I don't know. I think it's great to hear this discussion about Star Trek, because honestly, I have Paramount Plus right now, and a lot of that time, the reason I'm subscribed to it right now is because of that particular IP-ness. Like the cartoon Below Decks is great. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sinus infection right now, so if my nose is dripping, you'll have to forgive me.
I have
Mike,
COVID too. It's okay.
There's no time for that, Mike.
I don't know. You could.
We're all
push
dying.
forward, man.
It's all right.
I think that Lexi had a salient point too, in that she's concerned about just these media companies being continually reformed and conglomerated and pushed into tighter and tighter fiscal density, which is a problem. And it's a problem that if we want to exist as a functioning democracy, we're going to have to address that, like they did in the early 20th century. Like they broke up monopolies. They
I
had
thought
the
we
New
had
Deal.
laws about this. Yeah, like aren't there
we did.
laws?
We did. It feels like we did at some point. So yeah, I don't know. This whole I do wonder what the backroom deal looks like in terms of Paramount, because I was surprised.
Can we
I
just
feel
ask?
like in the last 10 years that we've just been breaking all of our monopoly laws in this country. Like, left, right, and center.
Disney has broke all of them multiple times. They have. But do we think that, okay, as a group, before we move on, because this is a big changing thing for the industry. It really is. I worked at Paramount for years. It's a huge studio. Do we think they'll actually just sell like different branches off, or do you think they'll sell the whole thing and call it a wash? What do we think? Just very quickly, Ron, sell it off, or
they'll start with the branches, and then if they have to, they'll do the whole thing.
But it's doomed, isn't it? Is it doomed?
I wouldn't say it's doomed, depending on how many branches they can get rid of and what comes up.
What do you think, Lexi? Is it doomed?
I think that if they are selling it, that whoever wants to buy it won't buy it unless it's intact, because they're going to want everything. You know what I mean? And whoever buys it is going to want Star Trek. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's what you're buying it for. That's the master IP out of all of this, is that one. And so if someone tries to go, well, if you want Star Trek, you're going to have to buy X, Y, and Z, right? So it's going to be one of those kind of deals where it's going to be, but it could also be one of those things too. Remember, like before, like someone's going to try to buy it and it's going to be like, well, you can't have ESPN, or what was it? You can't have like certain sports things because was it Fox News? They couldn't have the Fox Sports.
There's always those catches, there always is.
Yeah, because they already had ESPN, so they couldn't have Fox Sports or some shit like that. Like it was like they have too many. So I think there's going to be little things like that because everybody owns so much shit now. It's going to be like, well, you can't own this much of this one particular kind of tasty treat. You got to own like a wide variety.
That's always a problem, and I love the chats here about the Mission Impossible. I heard that too, and then they have another one coming, and it sucks because Tom Cruise is the fucking man. Mike, is it doomed or is it not doomed?
It's a tricksy ploy of some sort. At this point, I'm not sure what kind of tricksy ploy it is, but the nature of what this deal is going to look like moving forward is going to change, and they're going to let us know about that. So that's my prediction. I have no idea what it's going to look like, though.
The deals are always interesting to me. I'm like, I am worried about the industry after COVID, after the strikes. We're always worried about it. But sometimes things make me say, well, maybe we're going to change our look at things. Maybe we'll find new ways to make money.
Yo, player, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when we are live. And if you are able to join our Patreon, please join. Because the Pep Star needs more snickety snacks. Because I'm hungry. Holla back. Love y'all.